The second phase of underwater archaeological research, May 23 to June 15, 2022, on the Antikythera shipwreck resulted in the discovery of a statue head identified as Farnese-type Hercules and two human teeth embedded in a compact mass with copper traces. Marble head of a male bearded figure, bigger than life-size, which at first sight can be identified with Hercules, of the so-called Farnese type. It most probably belongs to the headless statue of the so-called Heracles of Antikythera, INV number 5742 of the National Archaeological Museum, which was retrieved by sponge divers in 1900. Two human teeth recovered in a solid agglomeration of marine deposits, together with bits of copper, wood, and other components indicative of a nautical calamity, are likely to yield important information. The genome and other features related to the origin of the persons to whom the teeth belonged might be deduced using a genetic and isotopic examination of the teeth. Several items from the ship's equipment were also found, including bronze and iron nails, a lead collar from a large wooden anchor, and amorphous iron concretion masses coated in marine deposits. Their function will be determined using X-rays and other specialist laboratory tests. The Swiss School of Archaeology in Greece is conducting the research under the direction of Dr. Angeliki G. Simosi, head of the F-Rate of Antiquities of Euboea, and Lorenz Baumer, professor of classical archaeology at the University of Geneva. The field research is overseen by the F-Rate of Underwater Antiquities, and the project is supported by HU, the President of the Hellenic Republic, Ms. Katerina Sakilaropoulou. The main objective of the program is to formulate a clearer and more acute understanding of the ship, its route, its cargo, and the wreckage conditions. The 2022 field study included the movement of chosen large natural stones weighing up to 8.5 tons apiece that had partially obscured the shipwreck region during an investigational event. Their removal allowed access to a hitherto unknown portion of the wreckage. The popular Swiss watchmakers Hublet Explorations team planned and built a unique system consisting of sturdy rigging, underwater lifting bags, and pressurized air supply. The Antikythera wreck contains the wreckage of a Greek freight or commercial ship from the 1st century BCE. It is situated at the crossroads of the Aegean and Mediterranean seas on the east side of the Greek island of Antikythera, near Crete. The wreck was discovered in the spring of 1900 by a group of Greek sponge divers on their way to Tunisia who took shelter from a storm near the island and decided to look for sponges while they waited for calmer conditions. One of the divers discovered the wreck at depths reported between 40 and 50 meters. That excavation revealed a wealth of discoveries that today are housed in Greece's National Archaeological Museum in Athens. These included 3 life-size marble horses, jewelry, coins, glassware, and hundreds of works of art, including a 7-foot-tall colossus statue of Heracles. The most surprising discovery, however, was an unassuming lump of bronze recovered during the first excavation that was later found to be a complex set of interlocking gears capable of predicting the movement of the Sun, Moon, and several planets, as well as the timing of solar and lunar eclipses years into the future. The Antikythera mechanism is believed to be an early computer used to plan important events including religious rituals, the early Olympic Games, and agricultural activities. Swedish maritime archaeologists have discovered the long-lost sister vessel of the 17th century warship Vasa, which sank on its maiden voyage, the Swedish Museum of Wrecks has said. Launched in 1629, Applet, the Apple, was built by the same shipbuilder as the famed 69-meter Vasa, which is now on display in Stockholm after being salvaged in the 1960s. Our pulses raced when we saw how similar the wreck was to Vasa, said Jim Hansen, maritime archaeologist at the museum. The huge shipwreck was discovered in December 2021 in a strait off the island of Vaxholm just outside the capital, Stockholm, according to the museum. Mr. Hansen said the construction and the dimensions seemed very familiar to them, sparking hope it could be one of Vasa's sister ships. While parts of the ship's sides had fallen off, the hull was preserved up to the lower gun deck, and the parts that had fallen off showed gunports on 2 levels. A more thorough survey of the wreck was carried out in the spring of 2022, which revealed ship details that had previously only been seen on the Vasa. The museum said technical details as well as measurements and wood samples confirmed that it was indeed Applet, Vasa's sister ship. In 2019, the same museum reported the discovery of 2 other warships in the same area. Archaeologists at the time believed that one of them could have been Applet, but further investigations showed that those vessels instead were 2 medium-sized warships from 1648 named Apollo and Maria. With Applet, we can add another key piece of the puzzle in the development of Swedish shipbuilding, Mr. Hansen said, adding that this enabled researchers to study the differences between Applet and Vasa. This will help us understand how the large warships evolved, from the unstable Vasa to seaworthy behemoths that could control the Baltic Sea, a decisive factor in Sweden's emergence as a great power in the 1600s, Patrick Hoagland, another maritime archaeologist at the museum, said. Named after one of Sweden's kings, Vasa was originally meant to serve as a symbol of Sweden's military might but instead capsized after sailing just over 1,000 meters. It was salvaged in 1961 and is currently on display at the Vasa Museum in Stockholm, one of Sweden's most popular tourist spots. According to the museum, the designer of both ships, Hein Jacobsen, realized that Vasa's proportions could lead to instability even before she was launched and therefore built Applet wider than her ill-fated sister. In late 1658 the ship was no longer deemed seaworthy and was sunk the following year at Vaxholm. Two other ships were also ordered from the same shipwright, Kronen, the Crown, and Scepter, and like Applet they also served in the Swedish Navy and participated in naval battles. The ships are believed to have been sunk on purpose after they were decommissioned. Hellenic and Roman sculpture heads were unearthed in the ancient Carian settlement Knidos, located in the Datça district of Mugla province in western Turkey. In Knidos, which was a very advanced city of the period in science, architecture, and art, Eudoxus, an astronomer and mathematician, Euryphon in the field of medicine, the famous painter Polygnotos and the architect of the Alexandria lighthouse, Sostratos, lived here and brought many works to the city. Hellenistic and Roman sculpture heads were unearthed during the excavations carried out in the ancient city of Knidos, which the ancient Greek historian, geographer, and philosopher-writer Strabo of Amagia likened to a theater rising towards the Acropolis. The sculptures found in Knidos are one of the greatest discoveries made in recent years. Knidos Ancient City Excavations head professor Dr. Erdogan Doksanelti told Anadolu Agency, AA, that the work in Knidos, which raised many important people in ancient times, continues throughout the year with the support of the General Directorate of Cultural Heritage and Museums, Selçuk University, the Turkish Historical Society, the Governorship of Mugla and the South Aegean Development Agency. Stating that the Mugla Governor's Office carried out excavations in the Corinth Monument as part of the support for archaeological excavations, Doksanelti said. During the excavations carried out here, 5 heads of statues, the earliest of which date back to 2,400 years ago, and the others dating to the Hellenistic and Roman periods, were unearthed. A head with a depiction of the goddess, one of which belongs to Tyche, who was known as the protector of cities in ancient times, and the other colossal marble heads as a portrait aroused great excitement. The Corinthian monument and the statues found here are considered to be one of the greatest discoveries made in Knidos in recent years. Doksanelti stated that the excavation and landscaping work in the Umayyad inscriptions area is still going strong and that the new inscriptions discovered during the work and dated to the end of the 7th century AD provide important information about the Islamic conquests in western Anatolia and the region's history. The sculpted heads of Greek gods Aphrodite and Dionysus were recently unearthed in the ancient city of Aizanoi in western Turkey. The heads of both Aphrodite, the goddess of love, and Dionysus, the god of wine, are important findings for us, as they show that the polytheistic culture of ancient Greece existed for a long time without losing its importance in the Roman era, excavation coordinator Gökhan Koskin told Anadolu Agency. Noting that the statues' bodies were found in a previous dig, Koskin, an archaeologist at Dumlupanar University, said the heads were unearthed during recent excavations in a creek bed in the ancient city of Aizanoi. With a 5,000-year-old history, Aizanoi, situated 50 kilometers, 31 miles, from the Kütahya city center, was included in the UNESCO World Heritage tentative list in 2012. In August, a statue of the ancient Greek goddess Hygeia, the goddess of health and cleanliness, was also unearthed in Aizanoi. As is often seen in statues unearthed in Turkey, the head of the statue is missing. Koskin, who works at Dumlupanar University in central Turkey, said, "Unfortunately, the head hasn't survived to the present day, but in its current form, we can see that this statue is about the size of a human." He added that during past digs in Aizanoi, finds related to Hygeia were also found. This situation makes us think that there may have been some construction and buildings related to the health cult in Aizanoi during the Roman era. Aizanoi was an important political and economic center in Roman times. Surviving remains from the period include a well-preserved temple of Zeus, an unusual combined theater-stadium complex, and Macellum inscribed with the price edict of Diocletian. The city fell into decline in late antiquity. Settlement in the area is known from the Bronze Age. During the Hellenistic period, the city changed hands between the Kingdom of Pergamum and the Kingdom of Bithynia, before being bequeathed to Rome by the former in 133 BC. It continued to mint its own coins. Its monumental buildings date from the early empire to the 3rd century. The Temple of Zeus, situated upon a hill, was the city's main sanctuary. Ceramic findings indicate local habitation from the first half of the 3rd millennium BC. Aizanoi's theater and stadium are built adjacent to each other, and this combined complex is said to be unique in the ancient world. 2 sets of thermae have been identified. The first, between the theater stadium and the temple, is from the second half of the 2nd century and includes a palaestra and marble furnishings. The second, in the northeast of the city, was built a century later. Floor mosaics depict a satyr and maenad. Rebuilt a couple of centuries later, it served as the bishop's seat.